Okay, now I'm not sure if it's a bug in Blender or if there's a specific reason for it, but Blender needs more faces, so it's got something to grip onto so it knows where the sticky mapping is. Otherwise you get that awful problem. So that's easily fixable by just subdividing a few times, like so. Very easy to fix. Now if we jump back to camera here, add sticky again, because we've changed it, and then I'll just jump into this camera. And there you go. It's looking a little bit. I've probably just moved this camera around a little bit too much, so it's a bit warped. But yes, the problem is now fixed. So that is, if you run into that problem, that is the cause of it. Now we've got other objects here that we need to paint in. So we need to do this plane for the anchor, the cylinder for the pallet, a cube for the pallets, as well as the ocean and the sky in the background. I won't show you all that in the tutorial because that would be painful to watch for you. So I'll jump now over to the almost a finished product. Just we'll show a few more steps from there, but we'll jump now over to that. Okay, so once we've added all the other objects, the scene should look a lot like this. So basically, we've still got the flat ice plane there. We've got an image, a plane for the ocean. We've also added one cube for the pallets and a cylinder for that drum there as well. So that's basically it. So I had to isolate each of those in Photoshop. So this is just the ocean. Now I've stretched it beyond where it was, and I've cloned past where the shed was. That did the same with the snow that you saw. I got the shed there. The pallet, I made that a little bit wider. Add that little drum thing, and there's the anchor there as well. And then you combine that with this sky layer. Just talking about that one as well. I just disable all these so you can see it. So the sky, you don't actually really need to crop out any of this stuff because the sky is actually only going to use this. But I just cloned one of these mountains here and then smudged out the sky there just so it blended in with the rest of it, and it makes and it works at least anyway. It's good enough. So coming back to this scene here, I'll just show you how to add the sky because that can be problematic. So I'm going to add a UV sphere. That's what I'm going to make as the sky, so that it's inside. So that we're inside, I suppose, this big bubble, really. Okay, now we need to make it as wide as our horizon here, basically. So where the ocean ends, that's where the sky should start. I'll just make that a little bit lower like that. So that's looking fairly good. Okay, now we'll add the material for that as well, just as we did before. Very quickly, we actually need to enable transparency because it's the last object in the scene. So it's very quick for this step. Textures, sky. And or alpha as well, just need to enable sticky. And then add the sticky from the first frame. There we go. Alright, so that is basically, it's good to go now. One other thing to note, actually no, I'll show you that later, just when we do the camera movement. Okay, with the camera movement, we're going to hit I and then select location and rotation. Okay, so now basically what that has done, yeah, it's added a keyframe there for the location and rotation. So we need to keep that. Don't ever want to lose that keyframe, or else these objects, you're never going to be able to get them back in place again. Now go to the last keyframe, frame 250, and move the camera in forwards along the Y axis, and change the rotation slightly like so. You could probably go a little bit more nuts if you wanted. And that looks fine. So then if you play that animation back, I didn't. Okay. When you move the camera in, you need to set a keyframe for that as well. So we'll try that again. Alright. So there we go. We've got a basic camera movement. You can go, more or less, depending on what you want. That was the one that I used. Now, the problem with this is if we render at frame 250, you can see that our sky here has got some weird problem going on, where basically we didn't paint past that, so it's not working properly. A quick way to fix that, if we go to frame 1 now, select this UV sphere, press S and X. Now this will scale it along the X axis only. We're going to stretch it out, and just looking at the figure in the bottom left hand corner, let's set it to scale 1.15 along the X axis. Then if we move it to there, just slightly to the right, if we render that first frame, you can see it's okay on that edge. And then if we render frame 250, there we go. So that's a really quick way to fix that problem. The other thing that I found with the ocean as well, if that overlaps, you can also fix any tiling problems there by going into the image settings. So with this ocean selected, select under mirror, set that as X, and it will actually, once it's finished scaling, it'll just repeat the texture as a mirror, and it's very unnoticeable. So it's a really quick way to do that. Now, at the beginning of the video, I promised you that I'd be showing you a quick camera trick that I've learnt recently to achieve handheld footage. Now, the reason you need that for this is because it doesn't matter, if you're the best cameraman in the world with like a really expensive rig and a dolly system and all that other stuff, it's never going to look as smooth as this camera movement here. That's because the computer has done this. No human is ever going to match what the computer has done. So that is the main contributing factor to why a lot of animations don't look realistic, is because even with professionals that are using them on feature films, they still have little imperfections in their camera movements. Alright, so I'll show you a quick, easy way to add variations to your animations. Now, people on the Blender Guru mailing list probably already know this trick because I sent them an exclusive tutorial on how to use this for a light bulb, make it flicker. So if you want to learn more on that, subscribe to the list. Otherwise, I'll show you now. So what you can do now in Blender 2.5 is add noise to each of these IPO curves, or F curves as they're now called. So if we select, say, just this Y rotation, that controls the tilt, like that, okay? If we select that and press N over here, you can see that this sidebar pops up, and we've got here a new function called modifier. So if we click add modifier and then select noise, as you can see, it's added this random noise here, and our animation over here is going haywire. Because yeah, it's too random at the moment. But basically, that has added noise for the entirety of this animation. So it's a very handy feature that's been implemented into Blender 2.5, and I just use it for everything now. It's brilliant. So we're going to set this scaling to 70. So that's made it a lot smoother, but it's still, the waves are too big. It's tilting almost completely over this camera. So I'm going to set this to 0.02. That might actually even be too far, perhaps. No, it might be alright for the moment. But basically, that's just adding some slight camera movements, tilting it left and right, just to get that human imperfection in there. I'm going to do the same for, which one is this? The Z-axis rotation. So that's shaking it left and right, basically. Going to set that to 50. And let's change this to, that's too much there. 2 is probably too much as well. So I'm going to set that to 0.010. And that's giving it just a little bit of imperfection there. Where's the other one? X rotation. So that's the up and down one there. I'm going to set that to 70. And I'll just change this one to looks like seasickness at the moment. 0.02. So as you can see, the effect is very subtle. Just this movement here. but it does look a lot more realistic than if it was just a perfectly smooth camera movement. And that really is a big contributing factor, as I explained, to why a lot of computer animations look fake. It's because it's too smooth. So go nuts, shake it up with the new noise function added in Blender 2.5, and you can get far better results with your camera movement. So that concludes the camera mapping tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it, you've gotten something from it. I'm always interested, of course, to see what you've created. So if you create something, show a link to it in the comments section, and look forward to seeing what you've done. Thanks very much for watching.